All right. We're going to get this session started. Just a couple of reminders before we get started. This is going to be a hybrid event, so we do have people, as you can see, in person who are joining us here, but we also have people joining us virtually. So great thing about that is that if you look to your left and to my right, your left, you go ahead and check out the QR codes. Just go ahead and scan those, join in the chat. You can answer any of the questions that are there. We also have our expert meetup up on level 5, so feel free to go ahead and stop by, ask any questions that you have there for our experts, and enjoy this great session that's coming up. So I'm going to kick it over to y'all.
Thank you, Caleb. Hey, everybody. Well, welcome to the last session of the evening, I think. So hopefully we've got, what, 5 more? Oh, one after this, so we'll do. There we go. Welcome to the best session of the evening, anyway. That's good. So this is how GitHub builds GitHub on GitHub. Hopefully that's enough GitHub for you. Hopefully nobody's playing the GitHub or the Copilot drinking games, because you're all still here, so obviously not. But yeah, I'm with my good buddy, Neha. So Neha?
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Neha. I'm a VP of Engineering at GitHub, and I oversee this area that we call core productivity, but for you, it might be like your daily developer workflow. So that includes projects, issues, pull requests, and some of your more like well-rounded areas, notifications, your profile photo, or your profile, and some of the underlying pieces as well, like the monolith and our front-end services. And so for me, I kind of oversee an area that's got like over 300 engineers. And so I don't focus on what we ship as much as I focus on how we ship. And so I'm really excited to share a few of those stories on how we build engineering culture and some of the lessons that we've learned along the way.
Fantastic, thank you. And then, yeah, we're going to talk. My name's Martin Woodward, VP of DevRel at GitHub. So, like Neha, I approve a lot of expense claims, delete a lot of email,
yeah, that's basically
that sort of
my
thing.
full-time job. Yeah.
And then today we're going to look at how we use GitHub ourselves. And we use GitHub across the entire stack when we're developing things, sort of building all the platform, building the tooling, all that sort of stuff. We're going to talk a bit of time, about the technology and the processes and how we use them. But we're going to spend a lot of time about kind of the processes we put in place and some of the human things as well. Like we call people who work at GitHub, we call us hubbers.
Hubbers.
So if we say that word, we're not insulting anybody. That's what we call ourselves. So how other hubbers, how we interoperate, how we work, how we communicate, that sort of thing. So does that make sense? That's the session you're in. If that's not the session you want to be in, I won't be insulted. Feel free to leave now. But it is an awfully long way to the next session. So you can stay here in a nice cozy room if you want as well. Cool. So first of all, let's dig into some of the challenges of the scale that we're dealing with here. We're going to be playing in the code base for GitHub live on stage. What could possibly go wrong? And then the code is, so if we say GitHub, that's what we mean. It's the repo on the GitHub organization that contains all the source code for GitHub, and it's on GitHub. So that's what we'll use. It's mostly Ruby in the monolith, the big the .com monolith. And then the front end's React, MySQL database. And then there's this big monolith of a big lump of Ruby code, of Rails code. And then there's around, was it 2,000? How many microservices? It's over 2,000.
I know. I feel like it increases by the day.
Yeah, it's like 2,025 services or something like that. That all, like microservices all the way around. And then how many people do you have in your team? 350?
320. Yeah.
320?
Yeah, as of
this morning.
Yeah.
As of the last reorg. Yeah. And then there's a total of about 1.5K people in engineering. So yeah, it's reasonably big. Now, what's fascinating as well as an interesting problem of working at GitHub is just kind of the scale. It's grown a lot since that first commit on that Ruby monolith in 2008. There's over 100 million accounts now. We see a 26% increase in accounts year over year last year, and it keeps accelerating.
Yeah.
There are over 4.5 billion contributions, bits of data that came into GitHub in the last year. 420 million repositories I was reading, and then of those repositories, I think 284 are public.
Yeah.
But 136 million of them are private. And yet those private repos account for over 80% of the activity that happens on GitHub. So there's lots of the open source, but the busiest repos are the ones that are private quite often because people are being paid to work on them probably. So
yes.
That's good. And then, so, you know, things are busy, and we thought, life's busy, you're busy, you know what I mean? And then a little thing came along you might have heard a little bit about this week called Copilot, the OG Copilot, as we like to say. And Copilot was launched in 2022, and it's seen massive success. It's growing 35% quarter over quarter right now, which is quite challenging to cope with and deal with as a team. The growth stops, the number of features being added keeps going because people want new features, people want things to be fixed. And yet, actually, the engineering headcount, that doesn't grow at those same rates. It's been relatively flat.
Yeah, it's been relatively stable.
Yeah, relatively stable. Yeah. So how do we do that? How do we, like, you know, be responsible for like this whole service? And how do we keep scaling? How do we keep improving our processes to get better at building so that we can cope with this growth with roughly the same amount of people? And that's kind of what we're going to dig into, because you're responsible for folks the whole way down the stack. You know, you've got people who actually rack mount like machines, like Macs in things, and like deal with stuff and power and stuff. But then we also do a lot of like cloud native stuff. So like Copilot's backed by, you know, the Azure OpenAI, you know, like cloud native services. You've got things like edge caching. You've got, you know, Linux and Windows actions. They're all hosted in Azure as well. So yeah, it's a lot. So we measure things, and in terms of the key metrics that we like to look at, actually, obviously security metrics, looking at that's number one, and then availability and productivity. It's no point having an amazing website if the website's down. Like, people actually have to be able to use it, and they have to be performant. But then we also look a lot at internal developer productivity, how well the teams are collaborating, and how well those teams are able to scale. So yeah.
And if you were to join GitHub, one of the things that you're going to hear us say a lot is ship to learn. And this is codified in our GitHub values. It's up in our internal site. And this basically encourages us to not go down the waterfall path. Don't go chasing waterfalls. And instead, sticking to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to, basically taking things that are a little bit smaller and shipping them out and looking and learning from what we do and iterating accordingly, right? Incorporating those learnings. So when you hear ship to learn, you think that we're focusing on the shipping side, but actually what we're focusing in is on the learning side. And so like, while, you know, we have to measure to improve, right? It's really important to keep in mind our major goal, right? And that is, like, I'm going to let you in a little secret, right? What is our master plan for GitHub? And the master plan, honestly, is the fact that our master plan for GitHub as a company is the same as GitHub as a product, and that is to build happy developers, right? And you know, when I mean happy developers, I mean the audience of people who use GitHub. And I think what's really interesting is that in GitHub, we use GitHub, but also externally use GitHub. And that actually has like an interesting balance, right, between external users that use GitHub and internal users that use GitHub. And so we have to think about those two things. As a VP, right, like, I think about these incremental changes that we do and how we ship incrementally. I think about that in terms of like our engineering culture. So like, if you think about what it really means to do culture, it's about every action that you take, and every action that you take is moving away from today's culture and towards the next culture, right? So this is DevOps, right? And so we love to measure. And so how are you going to measure developer happiness? The best way to measure developer happiness is to ask your developers, right? And so we ask our developers internally at GitHub. We have something called the Developer Satisfaction Survey, DevSat for short, and we ask our developers what they care about. And like, I don't know about you, but developers love nothing more than to complain. So they complain, they tell us what they want, right? And if you want to change your culture and you want to make things better for your developers, you're going to take what they're talking about, and if you can incorporate that into your roadmap, then you can actually get started and start to change that culture and make things better. And don't get me wrong, it is really hard to carve out that time. As I was saying before, right, because we have external users that we want to make your lives better, and then we have internal users, y'all don't necessarily have the exact same stack that we do or the same problems that we have. And so we always have to figure out how to balance between internal users and external users. And one way to do that, and the way that it makes it really easy, is if we can find those storylines where this aligns, right? And what I mean by that is, if there's something that we can do internally to make our lives better, that can also make your lives better, it becomes a lot easier for us to justify and take a look at that. And those are some of the things that often get prioritized. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about today is the GitHub developer environment, one of our top needed areas of improvement.
Cool. Yeah, so the goal we had as a team, we set ourselves, was to get to the point where on day 0, because, you know, we're developers, so everything starts at 0. On day 0 in the team, you want to have code running in production in the hands of customers. That's the goal. And that was hugely ambitious. Like, it takes weeks sometimes. How long does it take to set up development boxes in your place? Sometimes it takes weeks to do that. To clone the code alone, I have a fiber connection. I live in a field. I have a fiber connection, and it takes me 45 minutes to clone like .com down to my machine.
It's a big monorepo.
Yeah, and so you know, people can it can be too fragile. So we had the real goal of actually bringing the time down from 45 minutes down to less than a minute to get a brand new dev box on your machine. We do that with a thing called GitHub Codespaces. That's what it's called now, anyway. So Codespaces is a containerized Linux-based development environment that runs in the cloud. It's fully hosted for you, and it scales. Like, you can get whatever size of compute you want. However many cores, kind of thing, up to 32, I think you can get. Yeah, it's great, and they're disposable really as well, because it's all configuration as code. So if anything goes wrong with your dev environment, as just happened as I was stepping up here, you can trash it and get a new one. So that's what we're going to go do now. It's a good job. So let's do the first demo. Right. So behind me on the screen, this is the source code for GitHub, live as we speak. This is the main branch. You'll notice that the last commit was a couple of days ago. That's because we've been in a deployment freeze for build, so that we don't break anything while we're live on stage, fingers crossed. So let's go do some stuff. If I scroll all the way down here, we'll see opening GitHub Codespaces. So as a developer on the team, I can come in, I can say, where do I want it, US West or whatever, and I'm going to create a code space. So that's going to download all the source code. It's going to set up a brand new, virtual development environment. It's going to download other code. It's going to set up Rails. It's going to set up 2,500 Oh, actually, it's finished. So that's me with a brand new dev box up and running, ready to go. And this is like a brand new dev box. So I can just come in here, and I can say yes to all these VS Code pop-ups that run the first time you do VS Code, whatever. Right. And I can do script /server, and then hit that. Magic. And that's going to run. It's going to start running. There we go. It's going to start running the server, and it's going to set up all the test data for me in my brand new dev machine and get me up and running. Now, what I thought I would do, this is the homepage for github.com. This is a blatant advert for an event we've got coming up. But yeah, this is the homepage. Let's build from here. What I thought would be cool would be to change the homepage. Let's graffiti the homepage. So let's do that live. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is quite often you would use VS Code normally, wouldn't you? What you can do in VS Code, if you haven't seen this before, you can connect. Remote development. You can connect to your code space from VS Code, so it feels like you're running in a container in the, like on a local machine, sorry. It feels like you're running in a local machine. But actually, you're connected here to a code space. If I open up I'm running on a Windows machine here, but if I just do a quick uname-a, we can see it's running in a Linux code space up in the cloud. So that's, but I feel like I'm local. And so much so, actually, let's just make this a bit, let's get rid of that. Let's move that down a bit for now. So if I go to my browser and I click on localhost, I'm just going to hit refresh. Fingers crossed if everything's running. Yay! Right. So this is GitHub running on github.localhost on my local machine now. That's mad. And I can come in. I'm logged in right now. But if I come in here and do /home, there we go. There's the home page that we were just looking at. So I'm going to edit that home page. And I come in here. So, this is just some Ruby stuff. And I say, let's build from Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's spell it right. Silly British keyboard layout that Neha has been battling with all week, but there we are.
Shout out Seattle.
And then come in here, hit refresh, and then...
Pray to the demo gods.
Fingers crossed, please work. God.
Otherwise, oh!
Hey!
Yeah!
Thank you for coming, everybody. It's been great to see you.
Bye. Yeah.
Yeah. Whoops. So that's how. Oh, hopefully my mic is my microphone.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Sorry. Right. I just got too excited. That's a great feeling when you're a new developer on the team because you can get code working really, really quickly, really easily. And so it took us a long time to actually get there and get to the point where we fully adopted Codespaces, but now it has. It's kind of like a massive change for us.
Yeah, I think actually this is a really critical part about when it comes to having other people adopt new technologies. Unsurprisingly, when we first built Codespaces internally, we didn't have everyone adopting it right away, right? And adopting new technologies, especially as someone who's very passionate about developers, I can, bring them to the river, but I can't make them drink. And so how do you help other people adopt new technologies? For Codespaces in particular, there were two things that we did that were really effective. Number one was that we started to look at the time to get started, right? And so as you can see how electrifying it was, right? When you could make that change right away, that started off around 45 minutes, right? And so we just started making incremental, smaller and smaller milestones in order to get it down to 10 seconds, right? And then the second thing that we did was we kind of gave it the Supreme effect. Are you familiar with the Supreme brand? Its biggest appeal is that there's not many items. And so if you have something that says Supreme, it's very special. And so for us, what we did is we had the computer club. And so we created an exclusive area where if you wanted to opt in and try new technologies, you were in a crew and you were in a club, and it was very cool. And you all elected that you were going to try Codespaces and share what you learned with each other. And if it didn't work out, right, all we asked was that you just share with us why. And so as people exited and didn't like Codespaces at the time because it wasn't filled into fulfilling their needs, all we did was use that as our roadmap, right? So as we saw more and more people coming in, trying out, giving us feedback, we use that to optimize the experience and make it better. And so that was a very big tip for us on how to do it. And there's a much better story, telling of this story by Corey Wilkerson. So if you actually check out this link here on Codespaces adopting, you can see the 5-minute story and you can hear it for yourself.
So with Codespaces, we're all adopting that now. Everybody is there. There's not a single developer I know at GitHub that doesn't use Codespaces.
No, I mean, especially for the onboarding experience, right? Right into the onboarding experience when you join GitHub, we already set you up with Codespaces.
So Copilot's a different story. We sort of give Copilot to everybody, but getting people to use it, it can be interesting because people have to take time out of the day and you learn a new tool, install the plugin, use the plugin, all that sort of thing. And so adoption is now in the 80%, but it's not at 100% yet. But we do see for the people that do use it, we see a massive jump in productivity. We were seeing very, very early, 2 years ago, a 55% jump in productivity when we first installed it. And then Accenture being Accenture, when they're doing a massive rollout of Copilot right now, and they're doing loads of testing, and they're seeing huge increases in productivity. My favorite stat is that one there about builds. Because one of the fears that people sometimes have with AI technologies is, oh, right, well, if you can use AI to generate lots of code for you, then you're going to make really, really big PRs that are hard to code review and but actually we see 50% more builds happening amongst teams that are using Copilot within Accenture. So people are iterating quicker, people are shipping more often, and actually directly correlated to that is they're 90% more fulfilled and happy. More people are fulfilled and happy because of having this extension installed. So that's huge, and that shows you the direct correlation there is between the perceived productivity, how quickly you can iterate, and happiness in your job, funnily enough. Now, when people adopt Copilot, I did that, I'm quite pleased with that one. When people adopt Copilot, we quite often see the early adopters, so people like you, who come to conferences, who learn stuff, who listen to podcasts, who watch YouTube videos, they grab it and they go, thank you very much, and they're using it. But then there's a large chunk of people who just don't want to get bothered in their day. And so it's how do you reach those people? How do you, and we find actually it's about 20–25%. So it's kind of the classic, more like innovation curve. So how do we cross that chasm? How do we help the whole org adopt Copilot? The best things we found that's working is actually people sharing the excitement. Like, they're not going to believe me. I'm literally a paid shill. That is actually my job. I'm a developer advocate, okay? So they might believe Neha, because she's actually, like, codes a little bit.
I don't know. I'm leadership now. I'm basically the enemy.
Exactly. Yeah, so you're not going to believe you either, but they'll believe their mate. They'll believe someone on their team who tries it and is like, yeah, this is great. So we've got a channel called TIL, Today I Learned, and people can share like, oh, this is amazing. And so encouraging people to share like prompts, share things where Copilot has like helped them that day has been really helpful. And we've seen other people do that as well, like create channels, Teams channels, whatever, to sort of share, look at this, it helped, and find those mavens, find those internal advocates and empower them to share their excitement. As Neha mentioned with code spaces, it's also good to introduce some ceremony. So make it a privilege to have Copilot.
Yeah.
Make it give it to the team. Allow that team to take some time out. So the whole team installs Copilot on the same day. They take 4 hours, 2 hours out of their day to just play with it, get used to the tool, learn things like if you press escape, it gets rid of the code suggestion. If you press Command-I or Control-I, it'll bring it up in your, it'll bring up inline so you don't have to go to a chat window. Like stuff like that just take the time to use it in a safe environment before then going back into production. And then last but not least is clarity, is have some like data, have you made things better or worse? So run surveys before you roll it out, run surveys afterwards. We've got a new metrics API that you can look at within Copilot Enterprise. You can look at the level of adoption within your teams, who's using it, that sort of thing. So use that API there. If you want to learn more, there's a link, GHIO/Copilot/adoption. That will take you to a paper that details the Accenture study, how they did it, how you can run similar studies in your organization. And then there's also a bunch of like open source repos, because we're GitHub, that has all the survey questions, all that sort of stuff. So next, we're going to talk about planning and tracking. I'm just letting someone take a photo of that slide. There we go.
I'll also share a few interesting current stories here at GitHub. So one is that when we were talking about giving a spotlight to the people who really understand the tools well, even, I think it was 2 days ago here at GitHub, one of our most prolific developers, her name's Sarah Vessels, she has the most commits at GitHub right now, and you can kind of see based on the graph. She just shared all of her tips and tricks on what she does to be productive, right? And if she is the one who's sharing her tips and tricks, other people are going to take up on that as well. The other thing that I think is really fun and interesting and more whimsical at GitHub is that we have, you know how you have emojis, right? So we have a TIL emoji. We have a channel that says every single time someone reacts with TIL, with the TIL emoji, it'll show up into this channel. And so if you're curious about what other people are learning, there's ways for you to kind of connect that and make that more visible as well. So yeah, those are my two stories. Let's talk about planning and tracking. So when it comes to planning and tracking, what we're talking about is the communication, essentially, right? I feel like that's the hardest problem in any organization is communication. And if you think about software, right, we are talking to computers in a different language, and then they are talking back to us. And then we are talking to other humans to talk to computers better, right, and get more out of it. And so really it's just turtles all the way down, right? It's all about communication. And so I think this is even more complex in an org like GitHub because we are 100% remote. And I don't know if you know, but when we started 15 years ago, we were remote first from day one. And that is a very long history to be remote. And honestly, with today's technology and internet, working remote is pretty easy. It's really the time zones that are going to get you, right? And so that's why at GitHub, we have to work really deliberately to create a culture that supports asynchronous working. And so we have this saying at GitHub, and that is, if you liked it, then you should have put a URL on it. So there's this really wonderful blog post by Ben Balter. So if you just search, if you liked it, you should have put a URL on it. You'll find it. And essentially what that means is that if you want information, right, you have to figure out how to make it work in an asynchronous culture. we actually distilled our communication philosophy, and we released it earlier this year. It's in that link at the bottom. This is actually a public repo on the GitHub organization. It's how engineering communicates. And this is the philosophy on, it shares a few philosophies and a few key concepts on what to do where. And so for us, we say that conversations can happen, in Slack, it can happen in your chat, it can happen in Teams, it can happen in video calls, but issues are for tracking work and ideas, discussions are for long-running conversations, RFCs, announcements, and pull requests are for bringing code and process into the repo, right? And so that means including like changes to your documentation, playbooks, ADRs, EDRs, whatever decision record acronym of your choice, it's really important to take all of those different lessons and be able to align on those. So for us, we put up a public repo. If you want to fork that, you want to modify it and then use the documentation and just attribute it back to us, you're more than welcome to start with what we have and then make it work for you all. But this is all theory land, right? So I'm going to tell you about like 3 specific stories on how we build our tools to change how we work. And that's through discussions, projects, and merge queue. So the first one is for discussions. So I told you about like, oh yeah, when you want to communicate with each other, use discussions. But we've got 1,500 engineers, and we have a wide variety of functions. And we grew pretty quickly. So like at some point at GitHub, the average tenure, the median tenure, I think, was 2 years. So imagine a bunch of people are joining the company. They don't know how to handle the noise-to-signal ratio, but they're the ones who are doing all the posts, right? And so how are we going to make that work for a large organization where we want to leverage discussions, we want to use what we build? And so what we did was we had everyone start using their local repositories, and then we used magic labels, right? So this first screenshot on the bottom right-hand corner are the labels that we use and we put in all of our repos. And then we had an action, which is the background screenshot. And the actions were the ones that were taking the different labels and then rolling all of these up into like yesterday in engineering and last week in engineering blog posts, not blog posts, GitHub discussions. So, this is what helped us go from, the unmaintainable to the manageable, because otherwise you're just taking a fire hose of notifications and you have to like either handle the fire hose or opt out entirely. So, what we ended up using was this. So this is actually a screenshot with a few like redactions of our engineering discussion page. And so you can see there's pinned discussions. You can actually, you see that first post, my code review philosophy, that 𝗬𝗫137, that's Sarah Vessel's, the one I was just telling you about. That was her posting her code review philosophy to help other people understand what she uses and the tools that she uses. And you can see here at the bottom, the last post in this index page is yesterday in engineering. You can see on the left-hand side, the categories for yesterday engineering and last week in engineering, right? And so what's really important here is that you can leverage our tools, right? We're basically taking discussions plus labels plus actions, and we're solving a more complex problem, like how to address the noise-to-signal ratio. Now, I'm also going to show you a little bit about projects, and that's going to be with a live demo as well.
Done.
OK, yeah, let me go over here then. So I think the big story that I want to tell you all is that, has anyone used projects like back in 2020 or something like that, or before like we released the most recent projects? Yeah, actually I don't remember when it went out, so I'm going to ask Copilot really quickly. Oh, it's still here. When did GitHub projects go to GA? We just asked this an hour ago, and it says that it went to GA in 2022. So did anyone use projects before 2022? There were a few people who raised your hands before. You don't have to raise it again, so you're good. And so the way that used to look was that we just had these columns and these story cards, and it kind of looked like Trello. And unsurprisingly, our tool was simple, and the problems that we could solve were simple, right? We weren't able to do these cross-collaboration, complex, cross-org initiatives, and we weren't able to solve these harder problems. And so what was really important for us was that as we started to invest in our project infrastructure, we could address harder and harder problems inside. And that includes, all of the latest features like swim lanes and our Gantt charts, et cetera. And so I'll show you literally what we have been using lately. This here is our release tracker internally at the company and how we coordinate across the board. So you can see that, right here, Copilot extensibility, that was our ship yesterday, right? You should be familiar with it, right? And that's like literally here on our project board, and you can see the different labels that we use and how we organize this information. We also have a public roadmap. If you ever wanted to see what was coming up and what was up next, you can go to the public roadmap, and we have the ability to be able to provide this information to you in a granular way, in a way that you can search against, because we have this infrastructure and this technology now. And finally, when it comes to events, we even have like a tab for upcoming events, and you can see, that's for you right here, right? So we've got MSFT build, and then we have our later events later on. And so you can use projects in many different ways. And this is like very important, is that you might be thinking, okay, cool, GitHub Projects is just a project board, a project management tool. But the way that I see things is that discussions is your Word documents, and projects are your Excel spreadsheets or your Google Sheets of the world, right? It's a way for you to organize information. If you start thinking about it in terms of that, you can start to address more and more problems. You can start to link up these tools together. So the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about and tell the story of is shipping it. So this is actually a neon sign that we have in HQ in San Francisco, and it's the chipmunk squirrel, if you're familiar. And so how do we ship things here at GitHub? Well, a long time ago is probably like before 2020, we used to have something called deploy trains. And that was really great until we crossed a line where the number of commits that we had and the number of deploys we had were unmaintainable, right? And it became less about quality code and more about who knows all the tips and tricks on how to get something into production, how to get something into release, how to get past the deploy train stage. And so like, I kid you not, I was literally talking to engineers, and they were like, okay, cool, I'm on this deploy train of 15 pull requests, but my train got derailed 3 times this week. So they're on their second week for a 5-line change, trying to get that into production. And like, obviously that's not gonna work. So in 2020, we had this project to go and address this problem. We time boxed it to 3 months. Obviously we didn't finish in time because it's a gargantuan effort, and that was just unstaffed. Then we did our developer satisfaction survey. The DevSat survey said that deploy times and being able to like work with our deploy process was their #1 problem. And we're like, all right, we gotta fix this and we gotta ship it. So internally, we started working on this effort, and we started to address this through merge queues. And we also started to find out that publicly, people were interested in this product as well. So what do I mean by merge queues? Merge queues is essentially automating the merge pull request process so that you can go into busy branches and you don't have to worry about incompatible changes. You're not like contending with other people's changes. You kind of have a process where your change goes to a temporary branch. We go and test that against CI. If it passes, then it goes in, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. Unlike the deploy train process, where you have a conductor of the train, and they're mostly in charge of making sure that all the changes reconcile. If there's any changes, they have to derail the train, they have to address it, and they also have to wait for CI to pass every single time. So this is like more of an automated way of doing it for us internally. And as we started doing this, people were like, wait, I want that too. And so this is one of the unique stories. I don't think it's that unique, but I think it's one of my favorite stories around how we addressed a problem internally to address our developer satisfaction survey and our pain, and then it turned into a product that you all get to use now. All right. So let's talk about actions.
Let's talk about actions, indeed. So if I go back into .com, and then press 3, 2. There we go. So here we actually have the docs repo. The docs GitHub docs are available publicly. You can do them, but this is the repo that controls the building and releasing of them. So we can come down here and we can see we've got one deployment of production of docs. And we can just go, look, that was done 12 minutes ago. So this shows you this is live. So then we'll go and have a look at that deployment, and we can see what was done, why it was changed. Turn off the domain name experiment, apparently, is what was going on. And then I can come in here, and I can come in and like look at the workflow that was ran. And this is a fairly straightforward, actions workflow, because it's deploying a container. It runs in the container, and then there's like front-end caching in front of it. So that's, you know, actions as most people know it. It's cool, almost like we do in demos and things like that. This is GitHub Actions running on GitHub. Now, even though there's a deployment freeze happening, we're not merging into main at the minute. We are doing CI all the time. And so you can see, look, somebody's build just failed. Uh-oh. It says testing. They're probably trying to get CI working is probably what's happening. So they're going through and they're like doing all their builds. And this is actually running using the YAML file here. But actually, when you look at this YAML file, it's still fairly simple. What you'll notice is using matrix jobs, matrices, because they're actually, they allow you to split out and do lots of things in parallel. But then everything all is fairly simple and templated because it all makes use of a common action, a common workflow internally. That's our golden path. And that's the only approved path into production. That's the only way of getting in there. And that will, when you run that with the appropriate things and the appropriate certification on the box, then you can push changes into production. And you have to follow that process. You know, it's kind of baked in exactly what we do. So let's try and put all this stuff together, and we'll do some more stuff live. So here we go. What I thought would be cool, if I can actually, for some reason, Control-C is not working in my script. This is going to be exciting. Right, so we've got here, what I thought we would do is, this is our browser that we were just playing with. Let's build from Seattle, because that's on localhost. So we're going to do it on localhost. I'm not going to push this change to production quite yet.
Yeah, please do not.
OK, thank you. So I'm going to go into this test repo. And then what I thought would be cool, though, is rather than just, you know, yada, yada, like, let's edit the website. I got quite excited earlier. I thought I'd try something a bit more complicated. And I'm going to try and do a change to Copilot with Copilot. So this will be exciting.
That's meta.
So I'm going to say, let's ask Copilot, because you asked Copilot question in .com, and I'm going to say, how do I write a for loop in Python, for example? And it gives me the answer. So that's great, blah, 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 blah. Cool. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to play with the prompt. This is the prompt that's being used. I'm going to play with that, and we're going to give it a better prompt. So I was thinking I'm going to make it talk like Yoda or something like that.
Yoda?
Yeah.
What about like Jean-Luc Picard or something, like Star Trek instead?
You're not bored of like old British guys with a bald head?
I could never, Martin. I could never.
OK. Right. We can ask the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you all can help us decide, right?
Right, go on. If you want Star Wars or Star Trek, so who wants Star Wars? How about online as well, Ashley? Can we ask online? Thank you. Right.
We have a poll online if you want to.
And then who wants to ask? Who wants? We did Star Wars. Was that?
Is that what we just said? Yoda for Star Wars. OK,
yeah.
So Jean-Luc Picard, Star Trek. A solid.
That's amazing.
Has
online got a result yet? Jean-Luc online.
Jean-Luc online, but then in person they said Yoda.
Well, let's do Jean-Luc because we're running out of time. Right.
Yay.
So respond to the question like you are Jean.
Is it working?
No, it's yeah.
This is fun.
This is going to be exciting. So let's. I'm actually worried. I'm going to reload my code space. I can't. So this is going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah, Control-C is not working.
So, yes, save. Oh, hello. Oh, this is exciting. Well, it's 6 minutes to go. We apparently are having network issues. So, yeah. Well, hey.
That's how you know it's real.
Right, I'm going to kill VS Code, and we're just going to YOLO it and see what happens. Oh. Close anyway?
I'm remembering everything you're saying, Martin, and I'm going to write a chatbot just for you.
Thank you. Have a chatbot that sounds like a panicked English person.
Yeah.
This is like the opposite of Jean-Luc Picard. OK. Well, while this is firing up, let's just we're going to come in and we're just going to do this. Yeah, this is very, very taking a while. I'm going to do one more thing, and if this doesn't work, opening remote. Oh.
Make it so.
Make it so, number one. Right, well, we're going to try and do this while this is coming up, and we're going to go for it. We've got 5 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Right, is Copilot up yet? No, it's still loading. Let's see. Not really. Not right now, thank you. My server's still running. Oh, this is exciting. 𝗬𝗧𝗀𝗃 unexpectedly quit. This is going to be good fun. Right.
Control-C worked.
Control-C worked. Let's see what's going on. OK. Whoa, right then, let's do this. So I'm going to say...
You are Jean-Luc Picard.
He respond to all questions like you are a helpful AI assistant. Pfft, no way. Jean-Luc Picard. Yeah, that's close.
Yeah.
Like Jean-Luc Picard would, sure. He is the captain of the... Wow!
He knows. I feel like we've taught Copilot well.
Copilot is writing himself, right. He, unlike me, is known for his calm demeanor. Yeah, thoughtful responses, definitely not me. Finish each response with, no, that's not.
A period, no.
With.
Make it so.
Okay. Make it so,
yeah.
Oops, and then we're gonna do
something with number 1.
Okay, refer to the user as number 1. It already knew that, that's hilarious. And then finally, I'll go with this. If asked for drink, request.
Earl Grey hot, that's right.
Tea.
Tea.
Now, you're a developer, you're always in control. It's your Copilot, not your pilot. Right, Control-S. Right, Thank you, thank you. Control-S. I'm just going to do that again, just to make sure. Back tick. Yeah, right, great, thank you. Right then, and then let's restart the Copilot server. Fingers crossed it comes back up. And then I'm actually going to jump in here. We've got 3 minutes left, and we've still got to do a wrap up. So I'm going to do a new conversation. And we're going to say, how would I write a for loop in Python? Question mark. Oh.
Pray with us.
Oh, it's not worked. Has it? Make it so, number 1!
Yay! Do you want to ask it its favorite beverage? Or do we have time?
No, we're good. So now, I wanted, talk like a pirate. So a friend of mine, actually, with the new extensibility stuff we've got, yeah, so I haven't showed you this yet.
Wait, what?
So 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗃 has added a new extension called Blackbeard Agent. And so now in production, you can say, how would I write a for loop in Python? Yeah, don't worry about it, it's fine.
When did Jason do this?
Last night.
Last night?
Hi, hoi, Martin Woodward, me mateys. So me on. Now,
oh my God.
I know, that's awesome, isn't it? Good job, Jason. Yeah. Now, you too can learn how to write your own Talk Like a Pirate extension if you go along to Jason and April session tomorrow,
So
Thursday.
You can meet the guy who literally wrote this.
And then we've got, in the last 2 minutes, we've got, as you're going home, think about what can you take away from this week at Build that you can implement that can improve productivity that one little bit.
Yeah, increasing developer happiness.
Exactly, because as Neha said, what's he saying about culture? Every change?
Yeah, every single individual change you have is an opportunity for you to influence your engineering culture. I feel like people look at leadership all the time and they're like, oh, leaders need to change that culture. You have that power as well, right? And it takes every single action that you have is building towards that culture.
Yeah. And then, last but not least, I just wanted to thank you all for your time. We're going to make sure we answer questions that are left online. We're going to get wrapped up. If anybody got any questions, let me know. And then we'll obviously be hanging around all of the many Copilot areas upstairs and around the GitHub area upstairs. So thank you very much for coming, and have a great rest of the conference.
Bye, thank you.